In 1987, at the age of 21, Patrick Dempsey was riding high on the success of the romantic comedy Can't Buy Me Love. It was his first hit movie, and the attention was overwhelming.
When, adulation and money and success and all that attention comes to you, it's hard to, I think, integrate that with a personality that's growing.
When you're 21 making $8 grand a week, that's a lot of money for a 21-year-old. And our parents ever made that much money, and it's difficult. And it's a difficult transition. A lot of people don't make it, obviously.
Dempsey had become known for playing teenagers, but in real life, he was in the throes of a very adult relationship. It began when he appeared in the play Brighton Beach Memoirs, alongside a middle-aged actress named Rocky Parker. He played the lead, Eugene. Rocky played his mom.
Clearly, she was having an influence on his life, and he was being torn as to what he should do. He had this concept that theater was more legitimate than being in movies, and obviously he was being influenced by her.
Parker was impressed by Dempsey's talent and dedication. She offered to become his acting coach and manager.
I think she gave him the confidence as a young actor to be that bold, because I think it takes time as an actor to grow bold. And she gave him a lot of bold, strong choices that made him an extraordinary actor.
She was really protective of Patrick and really encouraged him to be great and go for it and, dare to be great, and kept him focused. Patrick had a trouble concentrating on stuff, and she, sort of like a puppy or a little kid, you point him at the right thing. Oh yeah, that, I'm here to do that.
It wasn't long before Parker became a lot more than just Dempsey's acting coach.
At the time, I just understood that Rocky was Patrick's acting coach, and maybe I knew that she was his manager. So I had no idea that there was any kind of romantic relationship.
I really do care for both of them, but I didn't get it. I didn't get it. He was coming up into the prime of his life, and I didn't understand the dynamic, because it felt like a Svengali thing instead of an equal thing.
The unlikely pair were secretly married in 1987, just 1 year after they met. Dempsey was 20 years old. Rocky Parker was 48.
I think it was a tough time for him. I think he missed his mom. I just think he really missed that connection with an older person in his life.
It's nothing they talked about. They certainly didn't show any outward signs of affection. Then I found out not only were they romantically involved, but they were actually married. And of course that was a shocker, because, as I said, Patrick was a gangly 21-year-old kid. His voice hadn't even bottomed out yet, and Rocky was very much of a grown woman.
He was the it boy for the teen set in 1987. Middle school girls, high school girls, young 20s, everyone thought he was this total major babe. And then to see that he had married someone who was 21 years older than he was, it did not look very good, for one thing. I mean, it really kind of killed the fantasy of every girl in the world who thought, oh, maybe he'll end up with me. But also, I think that in Hollywood, people didn't really understand either why he was making that decision.
Parker never left her young husband's side. She was his wife, manager, acting coach, and confidant. It was a relationship that didn't sit well with many directors.
The ground rules were that Rocky could do anything she wanted to prepare Patrick for the scene, but once he was on the set, she was no longer to direct him. That's when I took over. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
She wanted to be sure she was on the set at all times. She was very protective of him.
I felt like I was losing control of my role as the director, and so at a certain point I got very exasperated and I threw Rocky off the set. I said, you can work with him in his trailer as much as you want, but when he comes on the set, I don't want you here.
I think he respected her experiences and didn't have a big enough voice to say, well, you know what, I'm satisfied with that. I really am. That last take, I'm fine with that. But she wasn't. And so those kinds of things, I think, frustrated him.
Now we do the next take, and I see Patrick. I go, cut, and Patrick is looking up. And I realized that Rocky has snuck back on the set, and she's hiding in the green beds, which are the rafters on a movie set.
I thought at the time that she was too controlling. I thought that had he been a normal teenage boy, he might have needed that kind of discipline and control. But I've always felt that in some ways it worked against Patrick's natural talent, and in some ways may have made the process more difficult than it should have been.
Parker encouraged Dempsey to draw on his emotions. The technique upset some of his co-stars, including his happy-together leading lady, Helen Slater.
If they were doing a scene that day in which they were at odds and fighting, he would come in and act as if he was very mad at Helen from the moment he got to work. That was his process, and it helped him be prepared to do the scene. But of course, it was disconcerting to Helen because she would come to me and say, "Is Patrick mad at me? What did I do wrong?" And I'd say, "No, Helen, he's just prepared for the scene today."
Yeah, I think early on, I took things a little too seriously, and that got me in a little bit of trouble. I needed to open up and just sort of allow things to come in and not be barging through experiences and then turn around and realize that I missed the whole thing because I was too focused on what I needed to do.
Patrick made it more difficult than it needed to be. I think because then, maybe even today, he didn't recognize his gift. He didn't depend on it. He was so prepared. If anything, he might have been over-prepared.
Parker's coaching became a source of tension for the couple when his next movies bombed. Loverboy, Happy Together, and In the Mood were box office failures. Patrick's early fame was fizzling out.
I don't know why Patrick didn't become an instant star. It may be that the projects that were offered to Patrick after that were just not compatible with his talents or his looks or his age. And it also may be that because of Rocky's involvement, it may be that people shied away from him.
In 1991, Dempsey starred opposite Richard Greco and Christian Slater in Mobsters. Dempsey played the young crime boss Meyer Lansky. It marked the first real grown-up role for the 25-year-old actor.
He was very engaging and really a super wanted to get involved in something dramatic, something that, where he could really use his acting chops, no more light comedy, no more of that, it was just like, let me do something serious.
He wanted to be taken seriously. He wanted to do dramatic roles. He said that he would prefer doing drama over comedy. So he really was trying to kind of break out.
Once again, Rocky's presence was a distraction on the set.
He would do a take, and then he'd be gone, like he'd be gone from the set, like disappear. And I'd be like, where the hell is Patrick? I want to go over this again, I want to deal with it.
The reason for Dempsey's disappearance became clear after the producer noticed a mysterious cable.
So he followed the cable, and it sure enough went out to Patrick's trailer, and in the trailer was Rocky watching the shoot as it went on. And every time we would finish something, Patrick would run out to the trailer, and they would confer and see where the hell everything was at.
Rocky's coaching also added pressure to the competition between Dempsey and co-star Christian Slater on the set.
Everybody was very, very concerned about their own scenes and how they came off in those scenes, how they looked.